This week, Josh Pate released his Florida Gator football mood tracker, and he almost hit the nail on the head. What did he get right, and what did he miss on? We're going to tell you guys in the video, but first, here is a quick recap. Josh says that UF fans are armed and dangerous right now headed into spring, meaning basically UF fans are ready to go, right? They are ready to fight for the program. They're ready to fight for their head coach, Billy Napier. And remember, guys, how hard we fought for Billy and we fought for the program when he was first hired. There were a lot of people that had a lot of things to say about this hire, but Gator fans knew from the beginning that this was a really, really good fit. Remember how he fought for his army? And remember how he fought for Coach Napier on the first half of the season and through December because of what we saw on the recruiting trail? There wasn't a soul in this fan base who didn't have Billy's back at those moments. Pate says that what UF needs is just a spark. They need like a little flicker of something to be all the way back in on Napier, the program and the team. And he mentioned a couple of things that could potentially, light that spark. The first thing he mentioned was Graham Mertz. He might live up to some of the spring hype that he's getting, which would be really awesome for Gator fans. We've talked a little bit about what Mertz can do and be at UF. We chatted with both Gator Dave and Nick De La Torre about this. And, listen, I don't know if Mertz is going to be an all-star. I also don't think he needs to be. I think if he can just manage this Gator offense, this offense is going to rely really heavily on its running backs. It's going to rely heavily on a really, really talented but young offensive line. And it's got some great playmakers. Now, if Mertz can do more than just be a game manager, then Josh is right. This team is going to operate at a totally different level. But I don't think Mertz has to be spectacular. I think he just needs to be a game manager. The other point that he mentioned is that what Napier really needed was to get something big out of the new coaches that are hired for this staff. Florida lost its defensive coordinator to the NFL, but the defense was ranked in the hundreds last year, right? So can Armstrong's defense take a massive step forward? Can Coach Raymond, coaching both the corners and the safeties, make that back half of the defense more solidified? If so, then the team and the fan base will be back like we never left, right? Not only do we need to see massive steps forward on the defense, but we really need to see a lot out of the new hires that Billy made on the offensive side of the ball, right? Russ Callaway has got to have some tight end production this season, a lot better than UF had last year. But the thing I'm most looking forward to, and I think could very easily bring a lot of excitement back to the fan base, is Billy Gonzalez as the wide receivers coach, what he can get done with those playmakers. Teams love big plays, right? Fan bases love big plays. So if Billy can coach those wide receivers up, they can create some separation, they can create big plays. That is a way to really bring some energy back to the fan base with a quickness. The other thing is special teams, right? UF special teams last year were very pedestrian at best, right? But if UF can figure out a way to come up with some huge plays on special teams, I'm talking ones that make SportsCenter, right? Your top 10 plays. I think that's another way to have the fan base all in really, really quickly. If you get some punt returns for a touchdown or a kickoff return for a touchdown, some kind of huge play on special teams, that is going to fire the fan base up like almost no other. It's going to get everybody dialed in, bought back in, and it's going to be the same amount of Gator enthusiasm that we saw going into the season last year. I want to get into what Josh didn't mention, but before I do that, click the subscribe button for me. You guys have supported like crazy in the last 3 weeks or so, and we've got big goals for this channel, so you guys can help me get there. Make sure that you're subscribed. You can actually also become a member of this channel just by clicking the join button below. And that is going to get you a lot of really cool things, access to exclusive content, and a lot of new and exciting information that we will be releasing potentially first to those members. So go ahead and click it if you'd like to support. Okay, back to what I think Josh left out. He briefly mentioned Rashada and recruiting, but that has to be the spark that gets the fan base back and engaged. UF has one of the toughest schedules in the country next season. They're going to take on somewhere between 3 and 5 top 10 teams during the course of the season. The on-the-field results may not be there in season 2 under Napier. And listen, guys, I would love if they were, but recruiting has to improve. And for recruiting to improve, I believe that Florida's NIL game is going to have to improve. Not only from an organizational perspective, but also from a contribution standpoint. This isn't an endorsement or a condemnation of any group or supporter or donor or anybody else associated with NIL right now. But there is a reason that Miami was able to go 5-7 last year, not even make a goal, get blown out by Florida State, and still pull in a top class, despite also losing their top recruit. Their NIL game is at the top of all the NIL games in the nation. Like it or not, like the guy running their NIL or not, this is the truth. And at the end of the day, it is what college football is now. Now, the caveat to this is I don't think Miami's model is sustainable. I don't think one sleazy guy being in charge of NIL is going to pan out well for Miami long term. But you know what? It's working for them right now. They are dominating NIL, and Florida needs to figure out how to compete in the NIL space. If they can't compete, I don't know how they're going to keep up with the Miamis of the world, let alone the Texas A&Ms, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Tennessees, and more, right? Again, I'm not telling you guys to go sign up or give your money to any particular group. I'm also not telling you that you shouldn't do that, though. We've been told that there are some great things going on with UF's NIL, and it's heading in a really positive direction. We should have some more information on that too. But what I am telling you is that NIL has to pick up, recruiting has to pick up. Those two things are going hand in hand. And, a mix of NIL and wins is also the biggest and best way to get the fan base to go all in on Napier again, right? And in a really positive way. Think about how much different we'd be feeling right now if the Rashada situation had went down differently, right? Florida would be sitting there with a top 10 recruiting class after finishing under 500. However, instead, they lost Jaden, and now they're outside the top 10, and UF fans have lost a little bit of wind in their sails. And not to mention that losing Rashada was due squarely to NIL. Florida had some chances last year. Pate pointed that out after the win against Utah. And this fan base at that point was on fire. Y'all, I was in that stadium. I know what it felt like. It was incredibly electric. You couldn't tell fans anything. Everybody was so pumped. We were on our way to a major bowl game after that victory. You should have seen the message boards and Twitter after that. UF fans were all in on Napier. It was the perfect hire at the perfect time, and everybody was all in. Beating them again at their place this year could be a major spark again. But then the team can't let their foot off the pedal like they did last year by losing to Kentucky, right? And the defense has to improve. But most importantly, recruiting. Recruiting has to improve for UF to be able to compete in the SEC, for UF to be able to compete on the national stage. And the biggest way that could happen, besides wins, is NIL, right? So Florida has got to figure it out. But we've, like I said, been hearing some really good things. Hopefully we'll have some announcements about NIL soon. And hopefully really Florida has gotten this moving in the right direction. We've been hearing some really good things about how spring has started, and the team is actually trending for a couple of highly regarded prospects. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of the information that we're going to be bringing to you. And if you want to see our surprising update from this weekend about 2 college football powerhouses coming to the Swamp in 2024, do me a favor and click right here.